Us Arabs, the people of the Middle East, are and were witness to the history and stories mentioned in the Torah, Bible, and of course, the Quran. Our ancestors were Muslim converts who were previously Christians, Jews, Israelites, pagans, and more. Throughout history, we accepted the messages of the prophets of God as they came. In my opinion, the word Arab refers to a society that shared the Arabic language and other cultural attributes that originated from the Arabian Peninsula. The people who share this language and culture, however, are not restricted to the Arabian Peninsula. That's why there are Arab countries in different parts of Africa and Asia. Having said that, let me begin to explain the main subject of this video: Arab Jews. What's the difference between Israelites, Israelis, Jews, and Arabs, since most of them have one thing or another to do with the Middle East? Before I begin, I want to make a shout out to my sons Abdullah and Saif. They actually inspired me to write this script after asking me a gazillion questions about history. History can be really cool when you understand how our ancestors impacted how we live today. So pay attention, boys. Now, according to the Quran and history, Prophet Ibrahim had two sons, Ismail and Ishaq. Ismail had around 12 sons. It is believed that from these 12 sons, most of the Arab tribes in the Middle East came to exist. Now on the other side, Ismail's brother Ishaq had two sons who were twins, Yaqub and Isu. Yaqub here was known by another name, which was Israel or Israel. Hence, the name of his descendants in the Quran were called Bani Israel, the children of Israel. But hold on for a moment. There were no Jews yet up to this point. From Bani Israel's bloodline came Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, or Moses in English. His message after that became Judaism, and people who followed this message and faith were and are still called Jews. And since Ismail and Ishaq were brothers, as mentioned before, their children were cousins, and this is why many people say that Arabs and Jews are cousins genetically. People often confuse the modern-day country of Israel with the historical prophet Yaqub, who we Muslims believe is a messenger from God, by the way. The confusion happens because they share a similar name, that's all. The country of Israel is comprised of citizens that are Muslim, believe it or not, or Christian, and Jews, of course. The historical Israel was the prophet Yaqub, who was also known as Israel. I hope that's clear now. Jews are the Israelites, or Bani Israel, who followed the message of Prophet Musa, and their book is the Torah. Musa was a descendant of Yaqub, peace be upon him. Musa was born 6 generations after Yaqub. Now, I hope you understand the differences between Israelis, Israelites, and Jews. Before I continue, I wanted to clarify something else. Semitic people, or Semites, is an obsolete term for an ethnic, cultural, or racial group associated with people of the Middle East, including Arabs, Jews, Akkadians, and Phoenicians. The terminology is now largely used outside of the grouping Semitic languages in linguistics. So I guess the terms Semitic and anti-Semitic are being used wrongly. Whether you want to call them Semites or how I see them as the descendants of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, these tribes of people have been living in the Middle East region for thousands of years, and the narratives in the Quran, Bible, and Torah are proof that Muslims, Christians, and Jews coexisted in the Middle East throughout history. And even more proof is that today we can find a significant group of Christians and Jews living in Arab and Middle Eastern countries. As far as Arab Jews are concerned, who are the subject of this video, a simple explanation to their name is that they are Jews living in the Arab world and happen to share the culture, language, and heritage with the people of other faiths that live in the same land. Zionists don't like the name Arab Jews. They prefer to call them Mizrahim in Hebrew, meaning Jews of the East. Regardless of what you want to call them, these Jews believe that they are the original people of the land, just like everyone else here. I want to pause for a moment and make a shout out to other minorities in the Middle East who've been here all along, like the Assyrians and the Druzzis. I feel you. Some Iraqi Jews claim that their ancestors have been living in the land ever since the time of Babylon and started migrating to the present-day Israel only after the state was established in 1948. In the present day, you can still find Jews who live in Yemen. They are some of the few Jewish tribes still left in the Arabian Peninsula. They are proud Yemenis who simply refuse to live in Israel. Some people say that they refuse to live in Israel because they disagree with the politics. I don't want to be censored here, so you can look it up yourself. In Asia, in the past and present, you could find Jewish communities mainly in Iran, India, and Afghanistan. The Sephardi or Sephardim Jews are the ones who fled from Spain after the Spanish Reconquista of Al-Andalus in the late 1400s and moved to nearby countries in North Africa, mainly Morocco, I guess. Most of these tribes or communities all around the Middle East and Asia left their homelands to go live in Israel after 1948, which is after its establishment. Since then, approximately 900,000 Jews migrated, fled, or were expelled from Muslim-majority countries throughout Africa and Asia, primarily as a consequence of the 1948 Arab-Israeli conflict. The mass movement mainly transpired from 1948 to the early 1970s, with one final exodus of Iranian Jews occurring shortly after the revolution in 1979 and 1980. An estimated 650,000, 72% of these Jews, resettled in Israel. Before 1948, in Arab countries, despite there being thriving Jewish communities, many of them felt unwanted by their Muslim neighbors. Next year in Jerusalem was a phrase Arab Jews and Jews from all around the world said on special occasions prior to 1948 as hope for the dream that one day all Jews could live in what today is called Israel. After 1948, when their dream finally came true and they arrived in the Holy Land, some Arab Jews' dreams were crushed. To their surprise and great disappointment, many families were put in temporary tents in locations similar to concentration camps. Some families claim that this went on for months and even years, and when they were finally settled in properties that they could call home, they were in remote areas like Asqalan, away from major cities like Jerusalem or Tel Aviv. Overall, they were treated like second and third class citizens, with no major roles in government or any influential jobs. According to Arab Jews, those positions were reserved for Ashkenazi Jews, who were white. Ashkenazi Jews are Jews who descend from Europe. In their words, they are Jews who have a white complexion. Even the language they speak, which became the official language in today's Israel, is called Yiddish, a mixture of Hebrew and German. This made it even more difficult for Mizrahim and Sephardim Jews, who were classified as brown Jews, to adapt, as they had to learn a brand new language. It's also worth mentioning the Yemenite children affair. This refers to the disappearance of mainly Yemenite Jewish babies and toddlers, of immigrants in the newly founded state of Israel from 1948 to 1954. The number of children affected ranges from 1,000 to 5,000. It must have been devastating for the parents. In interviews with Iraqi Jews, They mentioned that their children marry Ashkenazi Jews in a eugenic attempt to improve their children's offspring, making them look more white. I guess it worked because Arab Jews claimed that in this era, the terms Ashkenazi or Mizrahim or even Sephardim are no longer used because their grandchildren are of mixed race. But that's not the case with the Ethiopian Jews, and until these days, they are known by the derogatory name Falasha, meaning stranger or exiled in Ge'ez, an ancient Semitic Ethiopian language. I talked about them in a previous video about Afro-Palestinians and how they are till today suffering prejudice in the Holy Land. To my understanding, there's a difference in the various Jewish communities in Israel based on their heritage and where they originated from. Other than the differences in language that I mentioned earlier, you can find variations in religious practices and marriage ceremonies. Jews who came from the Arab world brought with them food recipes, music, art, and every aspect of culture you could think of, especially the history. Here's my opinion. Us Arabs, the original people in the Middle East, are and were witness to the history and stories mentioned in the Talmud, Torah, Bible, and of course the Quran. Our ancestors were Muslim converts who were previously Christians, Jews, Israelites, pagans, and more. Throughout history, we accepted the messages of the prophets of God as they came. I also want to remind everyone that the Islamic empires throughout history ensured the well-being of Christians and Jews alike in the Middle East, as I mentioned in previous videos. So don't be fooled by mainstream media. This time, I want you guys to summarize this video. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Tell me if I missed out on anything. Tell me if I'm wrong. Thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you want to support the growth of this channel, you can check out my Patreon link in the description box below. I love you beautiful people. Until next time.